Hi, this is Inky Dumbbell in New York City. We're at the Signature Theatre to talk to Jacob Marx Rice, winner of the New York International Fringe Festival Excellence in Playwriting Award.
Hi, my name is Jacob Marx Rice, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about making characters likable. A common problem that I've had and that I've noticed other people having is that someone will say their main character isn't likable, which is really frustrating because most writers do like their main characters, that's why they're writing about them, but they also don't want to make them simple or nice. They want to have a dark, complex, interesting main character. So I'm going to teach you a couple tricks that I've learned to make a character seem likable without actually having to make them be likable. And to do that, I'm going to talk about a couple examples from what I consider to be the great literature of the English language, William Shakespeare, and the TV show Sherlock. The first trick is to give your main character a talent. People love people who are good at their jobs, and while, someone who's evil can reform, they can change their mind, someone who's stupid is always going to be stupid. And we as an audience will forgive a lot of bad behavior if we know that the main character is good at something. So Sherlock is cruel, he's thoughtless, he's mean to people for no reason, he's mean to people for good reason, he puts people in danger, he puts himself in danger, he does all of these bad things, and yet he's so good at this thing he does. He's so good at solving mysteries, he's so smart, he's so perceptive, that we just sort of excuse all of his behavior as part of what he needs to do to solve mysteries, even though there's no real reason that he needs to be mean to random characters in order to solve mysteries, and yet, as an audience, we accept that that is the trade-off, and so we forgive him all of these things. This trick is particularly helpful if it's a talent that helps people. So even though Sherlock solves mysteries mostly for his own sake, the fact that he helps people, the fact that there are people who benefit from his solving mysteries, makes us like him even more. But it turns out that that's actually not necessary. So if you look at Shakespeare, you look at Richard III, who's one of those great, wonderful characters, famous characters, horrible guy. I mean, really terrible. Does all sorts of evil things, shows no remorse. He kills kids, he kills friends, he does all of these things. But early in the play, there's this amazing scene. It's pretty early, and I think that Shakespeare put it in largely for this reason, because we get to see what Richard is good at. And what Richard is good at is manipulation. And so we see this amazing seduction scene where this man, Richard III, who we are told at the very beginning came into the world rudely stamped, which is basically Shakespearean for ugly, this deformed man proceeds to seduce this beautiful royal woman. And not only does he seduce her, but he seduces her over the coffin of her dead husband, who he actually killed. But it works, because he's so good, and he's so powerful, and even though we know it's all fake, even though we know that he's manipulating her, he's so good at it that we almost fall for him too. And it doesn't matter that it's all fake, it doesn't matter that a couple scenes later he's going to have that woman killed so that he can marry someone else, because he's really good. And we admire that. And it's really hard to dislike someone you admire. The second trick I want to talk about is making your character love someone. If your character doesn't care about anyone, then we probably won't care about them. But if they love even one person, then we will assume that there's some sort of inner goodness to them underneath their hard shell. And whatever else mean they do, we will associate it with that hard shell, as long as there is this person that they love. So, for example, Sherlock has this wonderful relationship with Mrs. Hudson. And when we first meet Sherlock, he's rude to everybody. People keep telling us that he can't feel, that he doesn't care about anyone. And then, when we first meet Mrs. Hudson, he gives her this big hug. And we see this real, genuine caring from him, which seems strange because we've been told he can't care. And suddenly we realize that he can, that there is this beautiful person underneath all of these other things. And we love him for it. And it's particularly great because he likes this person that we really like. And so we share this thing with him. We have this in common, and so we end up associating ourselves with him and with his liking of this character. And the show goes back to this over and over again. The best example being someone ties Miss Hudson up to a chair, and so Sherlock ties them to a chair and drops them out of a window onto a police car. And so we just see him being so protective and so loving to her, so that even when he is occasionally rude to her, which he absolutely is, there's this really great connection between them. And Shakespeare does this too with King Lear. King Lear is a terrible king. He's a terrible father. He forces his daughters to flatter him in court in front of a ton of other people in order to determine who gets to keep the land that he owns as king. And when one of his daughters refuses to flatter him, he banishes her from the kingdom. He's just not a very good guy. And yet, very early in the play, we see his relationship to his fool. And his fool is silly and clever and really critical of King Lear, who is terrible at taking criticism. But Lear takes criticism from his fool all of the time because he loves him, and he puts up with the fool being mean to him, and he makes jokes with the fool. And when people try and attack the fool, he protects him. And even when they're in this big storm in the middle of the play and it's raining and it's crazy, he insists that the fool go inside first, and Lear will stay outside until he gets in, and say a prayer for him and for everyone who's suffering. And so we see this beautiful love and this beautiful caring for this young boy. And Shakespeare actually does this 3 times in Lear because Lear needs so much help. So he does it with the fool, he does it with Lord Kent, and he does it with Edgar. And each time we get to see this beautiful love out of Lear, and because he is capable of such love, we can't help but love him back. So the third, and by far the most important way to make your character likable, is to make them want something. If your main character doesn't want anything, we'll look for a reason to hate him. But if your character really cares, if your character really wants something, then we'll excuse almost anything she does as just part of that, as her pursuing what she needs. And we will sympathize with that, because we've all been in a place where we did things that maybe we wish we hadn't done because we really wanted something, because we really cared and needed something. And so we understand them and we sympathize with them, and then naturally we like them. So in Sherlock, the main character needs to solve mysteries. He needs to have things to put his mind to, and we see how bad it gets when he doesn't. We see him snap at people. We see him consider doing various types of drugs. We see him trying to boil random things, including, I'm pretty sure, eyeballs in one of the episodes, because he's bored, because his mind needs stimulation. And because he has such a strong want, such a strong need for these mysteries, when he gets them, we get so excited for him. We're so into it. We're so thrilled that he gets to have this thing, so that when he then does bad things in trying to solve these mysteries, we just are like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's not important. The important thing is that he's trying to get what he wants. And this is true in Shakespeare as well. Iago, who's one of the great villains in the play Othello, he has one overarching need through pretty much the entire play, which is to destroy Othello. It changes how he's going to destroy Othello. First, he wants Othello to get captured by his stepfather. Then he wants Othello to embarrass himself. Then eventually he settles on the sort of great tragic moment, which is to convince Othello that his wife is cheating on him. But throughout all of that, there's this incredibly intense need to go after this guy. So intense that we ignore the fact that he gives us multiple reasons why, many of which contradict each other. Because the why isn't important. What is important is how intense and strong this sort of need is. And that makes him an incredibly compelling character, even though what he wants we don't agree with. Even though he does all of these horrible things to people that we really do care about, we can't help but love him in this sort of sick way because he just needs so desperately, and we understand that feeling, and to see it so strongly in someone is so exhilarating that we end up sort of loving him despite everything. So those are my 3 tricks. Give someone a talent, make them love someone, and make them want something. Hopefully you'll try them the next time you're working on a character that might be unlikable. Quick word of warning though, they tend to only work in fiction. You know, an asshole in a book can be compelling and exciting and a new voice, whereas assholes in real life tend to be pretty much just assholes.
For more updates and videos, either follow Inky Dumbbell's YouTube channel or follow me on Twitter @RowanHLB. See you soon!